Hey, folks, welcome back to the Husker Big Red podcast and the Big Red YouTube channel. My name is Chris Peterson, and with me, as always, is my co host, Janie Gillette. And we're back here on a Monday morning after it was a pretty difficult Saturday. The Huskers losing 45-7 to Michigan. Just not much to really say other than, the Wolverines pretty much dominated from start to finish. They look like the number two team in the country, and Nebraska looks like it has a long way to go, if it wants to reach that elite level of college football. But, Danny, we're, a couple days out from that game. How are you feeling? How have you recovered so far from it?
Well, I mean, people were upset that we lost 45-7 and blah blah blah, questioning the program and blah blah blah. What you said on Thursday, I believe it was that Michigan's and Jim Harbaugh have been doing this and building this for 9 years. We are in game 5 of year 1. I did not well, I said 20, I think I said 27-13, so I would lie if I said I didn't expect the game to be close. But there's a reason why A, there's a number 2 team in the country, and B, they looked like a well-oiled machine. I mean, take Nebraska's errors and things like that aside, I thought Michigan played some really, really good football. Some are calling it the best start that Michigan's had all year. So, I mean, there's a reason why they're the number 2 team. The sky is not falling. It is evident that there are steps that we need to take in order to get to not even an elite level, but a level where we can at least compete with Michigan on a game by game basis. And you know, this rebuild is not going to be easy. There are going to be some growing pains, and yeah. So I don't really understand why everybody was so angry after the loss. I mean, truth be told, what we saw was continuity versus a fresh start.
Yeah, I don't understand people getting that upset about it. I mean, Michigan, I thought just played really well. They played
They
as well
did.
as they have all season. And if I can express disappointment in one thing, I guess I'll say that I thought the black shirts, would be able to hold up a little bit better. Defensively, I knew it was going to be really tough for Nebraska to move the ball and to score, but they did. They had a 4th and 1 about the 10-yard line, and they couldn't get any points. They missed a field goal, so I mean, they had chances. It just the struggles of the defense surprised me, but Michigan, they brought in a couple of transfer offensive linemen. They had a new guy that started at left tackle that they've kind of been working in the last few weeks, and he's a transfer. And I think they just kindly found, what works for him. And really, they just basically came out in a lot of that drive or those first few drives, and they had 3 tight ends, and they were using offensive linemen as tight ends, and that's basically what they do. They come out and because even though Michigan runs everything out of the shotgun, it's not just because you're in the shotgun doesn't mean it can't be a power formation. And I saw people criticizing Nebraska's shotgun run with Harburg, and the only problem I have no problem with the play call. Just don't jump, dude. Just lower your shoulder. He said this after the game. Harburg did. Lower your shoulder, get the yardage, but that's a power play. I mean, that gives your quarterback 3 yards to get kind of that head start toward the line of scrimmage. But for the most part, I just thought we saw a team that, yeah, looks ready to win potentially a national championship, and a team that's in game 5. And yeah, I did think that the run defense would hold up better, but it really looked like, Michigan, they saw all week people talking about, how much they weren't running the ball well, and they weren't they were stopping the run pretty well, but it seemed like they were really determined to say, hey, like, we can still run the football. We're going to come out with 3 tight ends and show you that we are. And Nebraska just couldn't stop it. And, it sucks. But there's no reason to think that the sky is falling. This is just one of those games. It's kind of like the Oklahoma game last year. It got away from us, but turn the page. Very winnable game on Friday night against Illinois, and that one is going to be really important. So as with football, it's never as bad. You're never as bad as you look, and you're never as good as you look either, right? So I mean, Nebraska is not as bad as 45-7, and frankly, Michigan's probably not quite that good. They just had their best day, and Nebraska didn't have a great day, and that's when you have lopsided games like that. But no reason to act like the sky is falling here in Nebraska.
I know I saw people talking about giving up their season tickets and yada 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 and all this. I mean, we're playing the number 2 team in the country, people. What do you expect? Take a breather. I understand that we're all kind of traumatized by the events of the last couple of years, but I honestly didn't expect this to be a Nebraska win. I thought JJ McCarthy played extremely well for Michigan. He was on his game. He made some that first touchdown pass to, I believe it was Roman Wilson, over the head of Isaac Gifford. I mean, that was an absolutely beautiful football. and he was just on his game, and credit where credit is due. I mean, McCarthy is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and you know he also has the ability, and this is something that the Nebraska coaching staff can should take notes on, at least, to not have to throw the ball a ton but yet be efficient. He went 12 of 16, threw for only 156 yards, but he had a 75% completion percentage, and he averaged 9 yards per pass. Along with a couple touchdown throws, he played complementary football and did so well with the running game. And Nebraska just doesn't have that yet. And I think like you said, there's a very real chance that Michigan may be in the national title game at the end of the year, quite frankly, because they have, the complete package both on offense and on defense.
Yeah, McCarthy was great, and that's the thing is he can make all those plays and do all that stuff, but they are committed to that running game. That's who they are, and they're just going to run the ball down your throat no matter what. Like when Michigan's picking up, 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, it's going to be a long day because they have no problem just grinding you to dust and, pulling their guards. I mean, it's really, if you appreciate, power football and the kind of it's not I formation style, but it is that mentality of we're just going to run the damn ball right down your throat and you're not going to stop it. And that's basically what happened. And it was impressive, man. I mean, like Ty Robinson and Nash Hutchmaker, those are good football players. And, on the touchdown run, the Khalil Mullings touchdown run, like Ladarius Henderson, who's the tackle I was talking about, he just crashed down on Ty Robinson and just moved him out of the way. And that's not easy to do. So this Michigan team is really good. Nebraska, obviously, they didn't have their best game either. And that can make these things look that way. You have a missed field goal, you have the early turnover, the missed 4th down. So those things happen. But I'm not, I'm not, overly discouraged about it. Nebraska has a lot of work to do, but there's still a lot, to play for. The Big Ten West, is wide open. So I still feel like Nebraska, a lot to go. And just this is one of those games where you want to watch the film, you want to learn from it, and then you have to forget about it because there is a really important game on Friday night, and that is going to have more of an impact on whether this team gets to a bowl game or not than this Michigan game, obviously.
This game on Friday night against Illinois is going to be a very big one. I mean, Matt Rule basically said something to the effect of, we have to prove ourselves on Friday night, and they do. I mean, Illinois is a winnable game. They've given us fits over the past couple seasons, but I mean, if Nebraska wants to make a bowl game, then they need to win on Friday. There's chatter and discussions over whether Heinrich Harburg is the guy or Jeff Sims is the guy still. And quite honestly, I think, we saw the limitations of, I mean, we've seen the limitations of Harburg before, but we really saw them on Saturday against Michigan. And, I think it's quite telling that even though Matt Rule said that he would use he would be open to the idea of using two quarterbacks for Saturday. He ended up just using one in Harburg. So I mean, uh, I'm not sure if Jeff Sims is still not healthy or if they're just using that as an excuse to start Harburg, at least to the media. But I mean, I think it's very clear that for better or for worse, they found their guy.
Yeah, it does seem, at least through this week, maybe once Jeff Sims gets healthy and they have the bye week, that could change. But it does seem like Heinrich Harburg is going to be the guy moving forward. And he didn't play bad on Saturday. It just you're not going to beat. That's just not Heinrich Harburg's just not going to beat a team like Michigan throwing the football. You're not going to win games with him at quarterback if he's rushing for -2 yards, which he did because of all the sacks and stuff. So just Nebraska got away, and Michigan took them out of what they wanted to do. But this game on Friday night against Illinois, I definitely think Harburg's going to start. Then you have the bye week, and then you can kind of hopefully get Jeff Sims healthy, just in terms of having another depth option, and then maybe they can reevaluate things. But Illinois, this is a game they're not playing very well either. They just got beat last week, 44-19 by Purdue. And look, so this is for Nebraska. You look at the next 3 games, I believe it's Illinois on the road, and then you got the bye week, and then Northwestern and Purdue at home. So within this next three games, I feel like Nebraska at least has to get two of the three. And, Purdue at home is not going to be easy. I mean, looking at the schedule before, this probably looked like the most difficult game, but looking at Illinois right now, they're not playing great either. So I think this is a great chance for Nebraska to get right on Friday night. I'm not sure. They're probably going to be a slight underdog, would be my guess. But these next three games, really important. You have to get two, I think. Try to go into that last month of the season 4-4.
Absolutely, and it's one of the more interesting things about the schedule. You want to kind of move forward with from the Michigan game, and you can with a 6-day turnaround. And the thing to me, as far as Friday is concerned, I mean, we're pretty banged up on the injury front. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. I mean, Luke Reimer. I mean, the reports coming out about him with the staph infection, I mean, that's serious stuff. That can turn badly pretty quickly. And then you have the running back room that's a little bit banged up. I mean, credit to Josh Fleeks for scoring the only touchdown on Saturday, a 94-yard run. So maybe we might see him more in the running back department, but we're getting hurt at the wrong time, and I'm wondering when we'll really start to see these injuries, kind of take its toll. And when I say we're getting hurt at the wrong time, I'm not blaming anybody. It just seems like one player after another is suffering some sort of injury, and I wonder how that's going to make the rest of the season play out. Because yes, one player can't win or lose a game, but they do pile up. These injuries do pile up, so. I don't know. I'm just hoping that Reimer's okay, to be completely honest with you right now.
Yeah, I do hope he's okay. That infection, that sounded like a bad deal
Yeah.
and kind of came out of nowhere. So hopefully he's okay. But I wouldn't expect him to be on the
No.
field, anytime soon. Maybe not again this season. So we'll see. Keep your fingers crossed
Yeah.
for Luke Reimer. Cameron Leonard again, didn't play. Turner Corcoran, I don't know what his status is going to be, and that is precarious. Just with Teddy Prohashka didn't play well. I'm still, wondering. Gunnar Gatula must not be quite ready, and maybe Teddy will get better. But he did give up some pressures. Obviously, it was his first time back, so but
Against
that's
Michigan, yeah. I mean, that's the
yeah,
other thing. You
right,
like
yeah.
like some of these fans aren't realizing that we played the number 2 team in the country. And Michigan is going to make a lot of teams look bad, even if those teams are number 7, number 8 in the country. So I mean, it's kind of, imagine Michigan being your first test back.
And yeah, and this Michigan team is this, like we said in the pregame chat. I mean, this team is probably going to get like 20 guys drafted. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not a joke. They have a very good chance if everybody and JJ McCarthy, he could not even go. But I mean that's just how loaded this team is. And yeah, maybe they don't have a ton of first round picks, but McCarthy's a first round pick. Chris Jenkins is a first round pick. Their defensive tackle. Will Johnson, their cornerback, is a top 10 pick, and he's only a sophomore. So I mean, that's three guys right there, and then you have a bunch others that are probably in that second, third round range, and Nebraska's just not there yet. So let's judge the rest of this season. I do think that there's a solid chance of getting to a bowl game, and like I said, these next three games I think are very critical. Northwestern, you have to win that game at home. That's a must-win game at home. But I really, I don't think obviously Nebraska or Matt Rule anybody wants to see the Huskers start 0-3 in Big Ten play, and that's what they're looking at this week. Luke Altmaier and Illinois, though, they're not playing spectacular football either. So it's going to be
No.
they don't have Chase Brown this year, and
Thank
the
goodness.
defense, yeah, and the defense, they lost some really good pieces on that defense. And they lost the defensive coordinator, Ryan Walters, to Purdue, who, kind of ate their lunch on Friday night. So it's going to be interesting, or Saturday. It's going to be interesting to see both teams kind of coming in, getting after a butt whooping, actually. And whoever's going to be ready on Friday night is going to be, I guess the team that's probably going to win. But I don't know, man. Brett Bielema's a pretty solid coach. It's not going to be an easy test at all for this Nebraska team.
No, and they're very sound fundamentally. And honestly, he, in that regard, Bielema reminds me a lot of the Pat Fitzgerald led Northwestern teams back in the day. I mean, Northwestern was always pretty sound fundamentally, and they were able to string together, a couple of years of good success. I mean, Bielema is no different, and they like to run the football too. So, I mean, one of the things that I'll be interested to see in particular, and I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this because it came up a little bit. The throwing motion of Heinrich Harburg. I mean, he gets the ball to his receivers, but it's not always pretty, and it's like a sidearm motion. So I know Matt Rule talked about it a little bit in the post-game press conference on Saturday. But what are your thoughts on that? Because when we played a team like Michigan, they were able to kind of time his motion and bat a lot of balls down at the line. And his throwing motion, I was looking at it kind of in slow motion, and it's unorthodox. And the ball gets there, but sometimes it gets there a little quick. So, I mean, do you think that's something that can be fixed, or do you work with what it is and say that this is what you got?
I mean, I think it can be fixed, but I don't think you can fix it during the season, unfortunately. It's kind of like an off-season type of, so I think for now they just kind of have to, work with it as it is. And he does have a little bit of a slow, kind of a little bit of a hitch or whatever. And I do think we saw him, get some passes batted down on Saturday. It's just, it is what it is. I don't think he's ever going to be a great thrower of the football. It's just, they need to get him, running the football ahead of the chains and that type of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes it difficult because he really can't throw it over the top of a defender,
I gotta go
and
grab my cord really quick. Keep talking.
and
I'll be
and
right back.
I think that the problem there is it limits your offense. It limits the ability for explosive plays, and it limits the deep ball. And I think we kind of saw a little bit of those limitations on Saturday. I mean, we didn't have a chance of any explosive plays, and while that's not entirely related to his throwing motion, that certainly plays a big part of it. And so, I'll be interested to see if there's something that they can do to help him out for, the future or next season. And I'm wondering, if more teams will start to catch on to the throwing motion and kind of game plan for it as well. And now we're waiting for Chris with the cord real quick. And you're
Okay, we're
back.
back. Yeah.
Mm. So,
Um. Anyways, I was listening to you though, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see, with Harburg. But I do think he is going to be the guy on Friday night. So,
oh yeah,
doesn't seem like Jeff Sims is healthy, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that they, until Jeff Sims is 100%, they're not gonna, kind of take that step. And that's probably smart because with the way this offense is set up, they need the quarterback to run the football. I mean, there's just no way getting around that.
and it is kind of interesting, healthy or not, that the transfer portal quarterback you really vouched for is not playing. So there is that. I mean, yes, there's injury, but it's also kind of. I mean, maybe Matt Rule whiffed on Jeff Sims. Well, I mean, let's be honest here.
I think he did. I mean, that was my kind of criticism of him a couple weeks ago. Like this was your first big decision. Like when Jim Harbaugh got hired at Michigan, he found Jake Rudock out in the transfer portal out of Iowa, and he wasn't great or spectacular, but he knew what he wanted in a quarterback. And Rudock actually ended up doing pretty well, and they won 10 games that first year. And so, I was hoping that Nebraska could follow that same path and get somebody that can come in and execute. And I had hopes for Jeff Sims. I mean, he's a talented guy, just never, it seemed like he just was on a team that Georgia Tech that didn't have, quite enough talent or whatever. And I don't know if that's the case. He hasn't produced here, and maybe this is just too big of a level for him. The game, when he played Colorado, the game looked too big for him. I mean, he couldn't even handle the snap in those games. So, that the fact that we haven't seen him since, I don't think that is like a coincidence. I mean, I know there's the injury thing and all that, but it just I appreciate the fact that at least Matt Rule is able to say, hey, even though like I brought Jeff Sims here, I put my name on Jeff
Yeah.
Sims, I still, am able to play Harburg. So I appreciate that, but I do think that Jeff Sims was a mistake, or just not a mistake, but just a misevaluation. He's not the guy
Yeah.
Nebraska thought he was.
Yeah, and I can see when I watch his old highlights why Nebraska thought he was
Mhm.
the guy that they thought he was, but evidently it's not working out. And I wonder where that leaves Nebraska in the quarterback conversation for 2024, because there are things, quite frankly, that Harburg needs to work on. And everybody watching this who's read our stuff know that I'm a big fan of Harburg, but there are some stuff he needs to work on. And you know, at, at some point, or over the course of the offseason, you know, do you look at the transfer portal again for a quarterback? Do you just leave this situation be? Like, what do you do?
That is going to be interesting because Jeff Sims would theoretically happen of the year, and he's not. I mean, I guess unless he like graduates from Nebraska, tries to and does what Casey Thompson does. I mean, he's probably going to be here next year because I don't see him going to the NFL draft. That would be a dumb move. Um, Harburg, obviously, I think is going to be back in the mix, and if he wins the rest of these, not wins the rest, but if he wins enough games to get this team to a bowl game, then it's going to be hard for me to see somebody, like Danny Kalen coming in and supplanting him right away. I mean, it's possible. I think he's going to definitely be in the mix, but I guess in my ideal world, it would be, Harburg kind of figuring it out the rest of this year, finding a way to get to a bowl game, and then you can roll with Harburg next year. And then while you're kind of bringing along Danny Kalen, and then Jeff Sims, I guess if he wants to hang out and be like a backup or running back or whatever, he can do that. But I don't see really a future for, Jeff Sims here at Nebraska. I mean, things can change. I
Yeah.
mean, but maybe he rededicates himself this offseason, gets better, and he's the best quarterback next year. I mean, I think Matt Rule is pretty committed to playing the best guys, and I know that that's easy to say, but it's not always done in practice. Coaches get their favorites, they send people out of town. You know what I mean? We've seen it before. But yeah, the quarterback situation is going to be very interesting. It was good to see, Danny Kalen have a good night on Friday night. I know some people have been down on him a little bit, and it's just like, man, some people are just like down on everything. Like, my goodness, have some semblance of optimism, folks. It's not The sky is not falling for Nebraska football. I promise you.
Are you
It already
sure
fell
about
a
that?
long time. I mean, it already fell
Eh,
a long time ago, you guys. Like,
Are you sure about that? That's not what Facebook's saying. Facebook's saying that we should disband the program and stuff like that. But
Here's something for you guys. 2020, back in 2020, this was literally less than 3 years ago. Wisconsin beat Michigan on Saturday night ESPN 49-13. Okay, it was a very similar game to this one, and that was less than 3 years ago. So just give it time. Michigan fans wanted Jim Harbaugh fired too, and now they're all pretending like they never said that, or So let's just calm down. Let Matt Rule do his thing, and in a couple years, that this is just gonna be a blip on the radar. I'm very confident in that.
and what good is it if you keep hiring and firing coaches every single year? I mean,
Exactly.
you're not giving anybody any time to build a room or anything like that. And granted, there are some coaches on the staff, namely Marcus Satterfeld and Donovan Raiola, who I wouldn't be upset if they didn't come back. But at the same time, I understand that, for Satterfeld, this is his first year with the program. Raiola, to be completely honest, I have no excuses for. I mean, the line is still not good, but anyway, you know, at the very least, see, when Satterfeld sticks to running the football and sticks to, you know, just the ground and pound type stuff and doesn't pretend that Heinrich Harburg is the next Patrick Mahomes, he does a good job. But oftentimes, excuse me, he gets kind of, I don't want to say confused when he play calls, but he kind of just doesn't call a game consistently. Now, granted, Saturday was not his fault. I saw people blaming him for Saturday. That was not his fault. The entire Michigan defensive line was in our backfield within 5 seconds, and
Yeah.
there, there's not much you can do
No.
when that
There's no
happens.
play calling doesn't make a difference when your
Dude,
your offensive line's just getting owned. I'm sorry.
and they got owned on Saturday,
I mean, yeah.
granted, granted, like on a normal day, I would expect because it's Michigan, but like that's been the story of even the Louisiana Tech game. I mean, they just keep getting owned no matter what, and that's an issue moving forward.
They do have to get. I mean, the offensive line does need to get figured out, and left tackle is obviously a glaring
Yep.
position, and I just I don't think you can fix it. I think they just have to try to manage it the best they can. I mean, unless they just throw out Gunnar Gatula and he ends up being a lot better than they've expected, but they obviously see him in practice every day, so he must not be ready because otherwise I think maybe we would have seen him on Saturday. But and look, Teddy can get there. Teddy has the skills, but my honestly, it might just be best if he's healthy to put Teddy out there and hope that he gets better over the course of the season, because at least he has a chance to improve. I don't think that we've seen Turner Corcoran out there enough games now. I think we know what he is. We still don't know what Teddy is. I mean, I would give him a lot of help. I would sit there and do the best with tight ends and chipping and all that stuff, but that's going to be a problem going forward, and teams are going to attack that left side, and that's when you face a team like Michigan, that's really the problem, right? Because they've got like four pass rushers that are probably as good as our best pass rusher. So they're just going to attack, wherever you're weakest. And they did that on Saturday. It was pretty effective. But, again, I still think that this team, has a lot of things to feel good about. Running the football, the way that they stop the run. I feel like Nebraska's defense is gonna show out better. I did expect them to play better on Saturday. I was disappointed in that, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I didn't think that Nebraska was going to beat Michigan, but I did think that they would cover the spread and make it a competitive game. But hey, Michigan, they played their best game of the year too. So you have to just tip your cap, and you can't let this one game ruin your season, right?
Mhm.
Because
No.
the last 7 games are all winnable. I mean, Iowa looks like terrible right now. I mean, they don't look any worse than we do. We play Michigan State. Maryland's going to be difficult. Wisconsin obviously is going to be difficult, but we get Maryland at home. We get Wisconsin at home. So I mean, there's a lot of very winnable games, and we got to go 4-3. Like that's my mantra right now. Go 4-3 over these last 7 games. Get to that bowl game. Get the extra practices, and then let's just move into next season.
Isn't Cade McNamara, didn't he get a little banged up on Saturday too?
He did, yeah. So I heard that he hurt his knee. I'm not sure, and frankly, he's been playing so bad. I don't know if that's going to hurt Iowa that badly. He's just been not good. But they still did beat Michigan State, which is, pretty incredible. So maybe the next quarterback, is there. But man, Michigan State is not good right now. So I mean, you look just at our schedule. We have to play at Michigan State. We get Northwestern at home. Illinois is kind of, a mess right now. Purdue's going to be a tough one on the road, obviously.
Always
Um,
is.
but I mean, we get Purdue at home at least, so that's going to be, helpful. And I mean, thinking about these games at home, I'm trying to. So we've got Purdue at home, Illinois at home, Maryland at home, and Iowa
We
at
have
home.
a
So I mean,
we have a very good home schedule this year, like in terms of
yeah.
just tough games. Yeah.
So I mean, if we can win 3 out of those 4 home games and just steal one of the 3 on the road, which is Michigan State, Illinois, and gosh, I'm blanking on the other one now. Wisconsin. If we can just steal one of those, that's 6, and that's always been my goal this year is get to 6 wins. It's not. I was hoping it would be a little bit easier, but I think we're going to have to like beat Iowa or something that last week to get there, which would be pretty sweet if it happened.
And honestly, I think depending on the health of McNamara, maybe we can.
Because man, this defense, I know that Michigan ran all over us for 249 yards and blah blah blah, but that's that's one of the best offensive lines in the country, and they were like determined to do that. So just, I mean, yeah, it would have been. I wanted to see some more fight there. I did, but at the same time, like you just good is going to be. I mean, if you have a damn good offensive line, you're going to beat people, and I think it was just a reminder. For Nebraska of what they want to be. And I think Matt Rule wants to be that kind of program. And I think he's going to take the steps to get there, but it's going to take time, people. And Michigan did become that overnight. Like I said, 3-4 years ago, Ohio State was eating their lunch, and just run the ball right down their damn throat. So it takes you can't establish that physicality and all that stuff overnight. It takes time, it takes a commitment, and we need to just give Matt Rule the time to do it. Because I mean, look, from this first 5 games coming into this one, there was still a lot of positives, especially in the running game.
And I understand people say, "Oh, we gave Scott Frost 5 years," but I don't think this is even remotely close to the Scott Frost mess at all. So and I do think it's important that you know we do give Matt Rule time because you can see what he's trying to build, and you can see that right now he doesn't have all the pieces he needs in order to be successful. And that wasn't because he failed to recruit. That was just a culmination and accumulation of the Scott Frost era, quite frankly. And we'll see what type of conversation we're having in 3 or 4 years. But right now, I'm not expecting any Big Ten titles as this year is concerned. This year is just a building year, and we're gonna have growing pains. See this Michigan game.
Yep, there's always going to be growing pains. To talk to switch gears here really quick for the last little segment, we'll talk just a little bit of recruiting. Daniel Kalen had a big night on Friday. I think he threw the game-winning touchdown to Davon
He did.
Hall.
He did. Yep.
Carter Nelson, you had a post about that on Husker Big Red. He had a huge night, man. Every day is a huge day for Carter Nelson. I think there was a play where he just I heard he just took the ball from another guy and then ran into the end zone.
I'm gonna post the link in our private chat so you can see the play after, but it was absolutely ridiculous. He just grabbed the guy, grabbed the ball out of the guy's hands. The guy fell to the ground, and then he ran it back 75 yards. Yes, it's 8-man football, but he's definitely a man among boys out there.
Sean Callahan did report today that Notre Dame's still working on him. They tried to get Carter Nelson in for a visit to that for the Notre Dame Ohio State game, but he turned him down. So that was a good sign. He still seems pretty solidly in, but it wouldn't, with his ability, it wouldn't shock me if teams keep kind of checking in with him until signing day because he's that good
No,
of a prospect. So
no, and yeah, Carter Nelson had 16 carries for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 306 yards in total on the day. He tallied 10 tackles and 2 interceptions, including that one that you saw. That he took 75 yards to the house. So he is just it's like he is an NFL player playing like on the Pee Wee team, and it's crazy. I'm gonna be very happy to land him. I'm not sure where. You know, I would have said he would have been yes a tight end and this and that and the other thing, but he can run the football just as well as he can catch the football. So I do think Nebraska has options with him if they choose to go that route.
he did say, he's going to look at tight end. He never really played tight end, so I think they're going to move him around and just whatever, man. Find a way to get the ball in his hands. He doesn't need a position. Just get the football to him. Whether he's playing an H back and you throw to him, tight end, slot receiver, running back, whatever. He's just a playmaker, and it's going to be exciting to see him get the ball. I know Nebraska did have a few visitors this weekend, but didn't seem like there was really any movement, mostly 2025 guys. So, in terms of 2024 class, still watching Grant Bricks, Caleb Benning, Anthony Rizak is another guy who Nebraska, I don't know if they've offered him, but he did come and visit, take that visit to campus. So there are kind of in the mix there. Jay Sean Ross. So there's still a few names out there. I think this class is going to get closer to 30 once it's all said and done, just with trying to fill in the needs and things like that, but not like a ton of news and notes and recruiting. And that's kind of par for the course right now. That's just kind of the way it is. There's guys are taking visits, but there's not been a ton of recruiting news in the college football world lately.
I mean, I think honestly, from now on out, everybody's just waiting to see how the season goes, and then we'll see some more stuff probably November, December. Honestly, I mean, that's the benefit of having your 2024 class basically filled out by now, and that's not something we're used to.
No, will be interesting to see what happens with Grant Bricks. But man, if that guy wants to come here, he definitely could have an opportunity, I think, to get some playing time next year.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
and just because, look, I know we missed on Brandon Baker, and that was a bummer. But if you haven't, do yourself a favor and watch. Go to 24/7 or Huddle or whatever, and look up Grant Bricks and just watch him block people because you'll be really excited about the prospect of Nebraska landing him. He's a physical dude, especially in the running game, so would be a perfect fit. And look, I've been pounding the table for Caleb Benning for a long time, so I hope that gets done. I feel like Nebraska is the clear favorite right now, but you just never know with recruiting. You never know until it's in the books. So I guess that's pretty much it on the recruiting front for the Huskers, I believe.
So basically, all good updates, nothing too crazy, which is always good this time of year. I mean, Nelson to Notre Dame is something to just keep in mind. The fact that Notre Dame is pursuing him, it's hard to say no to Notre Dame, especially when they've had a history of developing successful tight ends. So that's something I would definitely watch. But other than that, everything seems to be solidly in place.
So before we kind of wrap up here, guys, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Really helps us out. So do us a big favor if you like the show, if you like our content, hit subscribe, hit the like button, get to the comments section. We'll be back later this week, probably Wednesday or Thursday. We'll talk a little bit more Illinois, and we'll have a pregame chat here, and we'll probably do a postgame chat on Saturday morning since we got a little bit of a different schedule. But we'll get you some more Illinois content. Make sure you check out HuskerBigRed.com too. We're going to have lots of news, opinion, and analysis leading up to this game. So check us out, and as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.